Hi, this is Frederick from the techno label Detroit, Berlin. A short while ago I did a hobo-esque trailer for this tutorial video on how to make an Amelie Lens style track. And although there were a lot of positive responses from people, there was also some hate, because when you use Amelie Lens in your title, many people, they get frustrated and they get angry because it's a very popular DJ/producer. You're going to say, no, she doesn't produce her music herself. Actually, I don't care, but everybody started somewhere. I started somewhere. I learned it from videos on YouTube, from tutorials, from other people. Yeah, you can say, yeah, those people made your music because you learned from them and they helped you out and you didn't make your music yourself. I make my music myself, and if you're famous, many people will say, you don't make your music yourself. If you're famous and you're a girl or a woman, many people, even more people, will say you don't make your music yourself because probably they are jealous, and I think that's kind of disgusting. Aside from the fact that she does or doesn't make her music herself, thing is, it's a very formulated way of producing. You can take like 10 tracks and the structure, the base of those 10 tracks is very similar. Not that it's a good or a bad thing. I don't say it is or it isn't, but it's very easy to get a view of the whole picture. And if you're doing a tutorial video like I'm doing right now, it's nice to have like kind of a formula to work to. If you take some underground producers, they change so much. So if you analyze one track, that doesn't count for all the other tracks they made, and you can't pinpoint a particular style that way. So I think it's just nice to have a formulated way of working, and that's nice to make a tutorial of it because people are interested in the way her music is produced. Aside from the fact that she made or didn't make her music herself, leave it to the side. The music itself, we're focusing on it right now. I made a track that's very Amelie Lens-esque. I'm going to go through the whole process, through every element in the track and how I made it. I used some samples from Sample Stream. I will link in the description down below, some kicks and some hi-hats. And I would say let's take a look at the whole production process and how this track is structured and which elements I used and how I made this Amelie Lens style track. Let's jump into it and let's have a look. Let's have a listen to a few parts of this track. Okay, let's pause it there and loop that little section because almost everything is in that little section. So I can give you a good oversight of which elements are used in the track. Let's perhaps view in like this. So of course we have a kick, a second kick that adds a little bit high end on top of it, like this. We have two bass lines, which is a TB-03 from Roland. We have claps, we have some hi-hat loops. I used these from Sample Stream, link in the description down below if you want to have a look at those. I used also a sample to have some background noise in the beginning and the end of the track. Then some percussion sounds, few samples, some hi-hats, some vocals I sampled. Okay, I will solo each element and then go over the plugin chain to give you an insight of how I actually tune everything and compressed and EQ'd and such. So it's a while ago I made this track inspired by an Amelie Lens track. The bass drum is actually a 909 tom, but heavily processed. So what I did was I resampled that, but the effect chain, the plugin chain, it's still on here. So if we take a look, and it will probably be very unorthodox the way I made this, but in the end result, that counts. And yeah, just have a look at it. Using the Console 1 from Softube. This is the thing I used with kind of a big sustain on it to really get that that release up. Then pronounced at kind of 328 Hertz and at 1 kilohertz a little dip, and then some slight compression and a lot of drive, especially a lot of drive. Tone the character down to get it really low, to have that low end. So if I take a look at some EQing, and I really went bonkers with that, with a real heavy dip, and especially the real low end, I boosted it quite a lot. Loop compression with a lot of makeup noise to really slam that compressor, and then the little voice of God, it's like also a boost for the low end to have a really heavy bass sound. Then some compression, also heavy compression. Multiband with, let me see, kind of a lot of compression on the low end we have there. Then this maximizer with, yeah, kind of a little bit more distortion boost. Drum bus with a lot of boom, situated at about 36 Hertz, which is also a really low frequency, so I really boosted the low a lot. Let me close these ones. Then I did a low cut and a boost right above. Yeah, if you look at these two, the thing I did was I lowered the 100 Hertz and like the 80 Hertz at first, but then I boosted them because the sound, yeah, it evolves, especially with all the compression and such. So yeah, that's shaping of the sound, and like I said earlier, it's a very unorthodox way of doing things, but the end result is what counts. So yeah, slight compression. Boosting of the high frequencies with this tape recorder simulator plugin. And then some more EQing. Got 3 EQs. If you count the console one, I've got 4 EQs on there, and then a limiter. And what I did was that sound, I just kind of bounced it and used it on the second track, which we have here, and I'll so that's really a distorted kick with a lot of punch. And of course I also put some effects on here, and I can give you a before and after if you like. So let's see. The console one, let's take a look and bypass this. So actually I boosted again at about 3.9 dB at 242 Hertz, and then a slight boost at close to 1 kilohertz. A little bit of drive, but not that much, and quite a lot of compression. So let's take a further look. The auto pan, I use it a lot. It's kind of an LFO, and this LFO, it controls the volume. So with these settings, take a good look at these settings. You can actually, if I remove it, it has a long tail, and this makes the kick more punchy, and the tail, it gets retracted. Then some EQing, subtle compression with the glue compressor, some more EQing, but these extra EQs, yeah, they are just added over time. So I start somewhere, and then yeah, if the whole mix needs some adjustment, or I adjust the EQ I already have on there. But when it's in a chain with a compressor and something else right behind it, if I adjust it, it could change the sound too much, because the compression will act in a different way. So what I tend to do is, if I have such a complex chain, I just add like EQing, yeah. I add the EQing just at the rear of the chain, at the end of the chain. So, and then I have like another voice of God, which accentuates some of the lower frequencies. Okay. And then on top of this, I have a second kick. But this is high passed quite a lot. Let me see. The EQing, it has a low cut and a high pass. And what else is on there? It's been a long time since I made this, so some compression, some reverb. Put some reverb directly onto that track because, yeah, no need to use it on other elements. And some more EQing and some sidechain. So actually what this does is, I think it's sidechained to the kick so that it doesn't come in the audio range of the other kick. So it's extremely subtle, but it works in the end. So if I combine these two, and then I'm going to remove that top kick, it will be subtle, but it's audible. It's especially audible in like the tail, in like the high end a little bit. It gets a little bit more full, but without peaking in some frequencies. Okay, let's look at the bass, and I used a TB-03 for this, and I used it in like two different patterns. A pattern which I'm going to let you take a look at right now. Going to go over the EQing with the Softube, Softube Console 1. A low cut, a little bit of high cut, and then some frequencies. Kinda a lot of drive on there. Some input gain to really boost the sound before going into the compressor and such. So this is an extremely simple, not even a bass kind of sound, but just a synthesizer sound. And it actually, it works like magic with the kick. Let me extremely simple but effective. And also this has some of the side chaining. Okay. And the second bass, it's also the TB-03, but in more aggressive tone, really acid techno-ish. Actually, it's 13, 14 notes I had, so actually every cycle it would start somewhere else, and that gives like more kind of a polyrhythmical sense, and it makes the track really fluid and not that repetitive. It's a track with a lot of repetition, so it aids in making it more sound fluid. If I combine those two bass lines, we get something like this. And that reoccurring sound, it gives like a constant element in the track, where the other line is like shifting all the time. And with the kick, it works nicely together. Then we have the clap. Let me take a look. I used a few cents on this, and later in the process I will show you where those cents go. The clap, yeah, it's just a very simple clap that's looped. Actually, not too much to it. I also have kind of a quicker pattern, but that's really an extremely plain clap. You hear that reverb, yeah, combined with the kick, it works. Now the clap, the position of the clap, it's like a little bit late, so it's a particular moment in, yeah, the timing, and it gives that feel of, yeah, a track like Amelie Lens. Then I will take a look at the hi-hats. Also the chain of the clap, it's extremely simple. It's a little bit low cut, of course, to get rid of those low frequencies. Actually kind of a lot of drive, a lot of compression. And then the hi-hats. Two different kind of hi-hats combined. I took them from Sample Stream. They're really affordable samples, loops. These ones are at 130 BPM, so I slowed them down a little bit, but yeah, I didn't do that. Ableton Live did that, but you get the point. Put one left, put one right, so this is like a higher, more low cut hi-hat sound. This is the EQ curve, and kind of a lot of drive, a lot of character to give that resonance in the hi-hats, and a little bit of sustain. That's actually all I did with those hi-hats. It's a nice sample pack, so yeah, no need to do too much with those hi-hats. And then yeah, the second one, it's like also quite simple. Put a gate on it, kind of low cut, also some drive, not that much as the first ones. And yeah, band that to the left, band the other one to the right, so like this, and together it's kind of a nice soundstage. Then let's take a look at the percussion I have here. So it's very low in volume, just to give a slight hint. What did I do with this? Of course, the low frequency cut and a little dip at 3 kilohertz. So yeah, band it to the left, and then I have this other thing. Also some hi-hats, but I actually, if I remember correctly, I transposed them by quite a lot so that these hi-hats didn't sound like hi-hats anymore. So 21 semitones. They came from here, and now they're kind of more percussive stuff. If I take a look at my console one, again, that low cut, a little bit of compression, some drive, and some gating to, yeah, get it really tight. So if you listen to the original loop, it's more, yeah, has more to it, but in the mix with a lot of elements, you really need to tone down some stuff to get it sounding, yeah, open, and yeah, let the frequencies don't interfere with each other. So then I have some more kind of open hi-hats to get that, yeah, techno hi-hat. Again, low cut, kind of a boost around, let me see, around 700 Hertz. And if we take a look at the console one, also some gating, a hard gate, and yeah, a lot of drive on this. So I compensated with bringing the volume down, bypassing it now. So pan it to the right and it's full, and now it's, yeah, it's better in the mix, that's for sure. Then let's take a look at all these So if we combine all these hi-hat loops and kind of percussive elements, it's very punchy, it's very strict, and if we add the bass drum, yeah, that's kind of an Amelie Lens stylish techno beat. Very basic, but yeah, there's nothing wrong with basic stuff if those sounds are there, if you put a lot of time in, yeah, getting a nice sound, then there's not so much wrong with something basic. If you, yeah, make a nice progression through the track, it's very effective on the dance floor. It's not music you listen to it over and over again and go like, wow, discovering things. Yeah, then you should look more into underground artists doing some special compositions and some, yeah, more futuristic music. There's a lot out there, so yeah, if you're really into the techno bangers, yeah, then this style of music is very functional. So then we come to the voice, to the vocal, and that's, yeah, just one word. If you listen to Amelie Lens tracks, yeah, most of the time there's like one word or a few words, and that gets repeated and repeated. But again, it's simple, it's effective, and it works on the dance floor. This tutorial is really focused towards that kind of music, and whether it's called an Amelie Lens style track or just like a kind of basic techno track, it doesn't matter. You make your own stuff. So let's listen to the vocal.
Silence. Silence.
Then I added a second vocal. This one.
Silence.
Also a little bit pan to the left and to the right.
Silence.
If you don't and you put everything very close to the center, then yeah, everything gets in each other's way. So if you pan consistently, like the high frequencies, some of them quite a lot to the left and to the right, then yeah, the low frequencies I would keep in the middle, especially a low bass, sub bass, kick sound. I would just put it in the middle, snare in the middle, or slightly to the left or the right. If you have like also a clap in the mix that you can, yeah, put to the other side, but also close to the middle because they're kind of lower frequency sounds, mid-frequency, low mid-frequency sounds. Percussive sounds, yeah, toms you can put left, put right in the center, you can play around with it. What I wouldn't do is use stereo effects like choruses that give you a wide sound and put it like on every track, because it will be kind of covering the stereo image, and you can't pinpoint where the sounds are situated, so I won't do that. Maybe like a lead sound that's in the center, you can give that some chorus and make it feel like a wide, big sound. But if you put it on everything, yeah, you can't focus on elements anymore. It gets too out there. A lot going on these vocals, like a frequency shifter, a chorus. What kind of effects did I put on there? Basic stuff, very basic stuff, just some low cutting, but not too much, because yeah, if you cut a voice, the low frequencies, it gets too brittle. So if we're taking a look at those Amelie Lens style vocals, if you have like a European accent, like a Dutch or a Flemish or a French accent to the vocals, yeah, it sounds more Amelie Lens-ish. I wouldn't really recommend like an American accent, because that's not the style she's going for, because yeah, she sings her own vocals, or maybe some people will say she doesn't. I don't know, I don't care actually. So let's take a look at the chain on all the sends and return channels. The first one is like a reverb, a very big reverb. I first put a CE1 from Roland chorus ensemble on top of it, very slightly. Then the EMT 250 reverb. Okay, it's kind of a big reverb, but it wasn't enough, so I put the standard reverb from Ableton on top of it, more like in a 70%-ish way. Very big room size, very long decay time, slight chorus on there, and yeah, some cutting of the high frequencies. Let me see if there's like a sound that uses a lot of it. Use it slightly, maybe the percussion. Percussion is kind of using that send. And what it does, percussion, it's not loud in the mix, and it's sent to like a real long reverb, and that puts it way back in the mix. If I mute it and put the percussion way louder, yeah, then and it just comes to the foreground, yeah, it will interfere with other sounds. So it's nice to have some percussive elements, but way in the back, so that it creates a texture, but not more than just a texture. So that's this. Let's take a look at the delay. And the delay, I play around with it, I think, or no, I didn't use some automation on it. Okay. So I just, actually this I could remove. So I put an echo on it, and yeah, kind of simple, just 1/8 repetition, in sync, a triplet, and minus 21% and minus 26% to give it more like a stereo image, slight feedback, and I put the input volume a little bit down. So let me see. Like these actually use so this is without, and this is with the delay, and what actually happens is it makes it sound fuller. So the clap without, and the clap with those effects. Then I have another echo going on, low cut on it, some modulation on it, and I actually took like another kind of synchronization, the dotted one, and I put it at +5 and -5%, 0.5% I would say, kind of 50% feedback on that. So let me see on which channels I use that. Also on those percussive hi-hat-ish sounds, slightly on some other sounds, but not that loud, but especially on this percussive sound. So let me mute it. Okay. Again, it makes it more like they're in the same space. If you mute it, it gets too dry. So yeah. And then I have like an EQ with a tape echo, another echo to just, yeah, it kind of gives a nice sound. I don't think, oh, I use it especially for reverb, this one. The reverb is very high and the echo, actually it's also kind of high, so I will be using this very subtly. Also on the same channel and on like the other percussion. Let me play it once again. So if I mute everything, it gets really dry and it doesn't have any position in the stereo field. It's just right in the middle, and if I add all those sends, it gets more dimensional. Have it on the hi-hats, this Galaxy tape echo with some reverb on it. It's extremely subtle, especially because reverb, it has an high cut and a low cut on it. Okay. And then the master chain, it has, and now I'm going to zoom out. It starts with like a low cut on everything, and then when that kick drops in, it really has a full body, and then the first like short drop in the track, it gets high passed again. For the most part, it's like the heavy kick, and then at the end, quite some time before the track slows down, there's a high pass again. So that's that. Let me play it a little bit. So it gets cut, and the track just slows down. There's also this. Thing I added at the start and at the end, and it's actually because when I high pass everything, then yeah, the volume drops, and I added in some more percussive stuff just to add to the mix. And then at the end, it's just a little bit of the bass and the kick and some percussion I left in, but that's about it. So let me close down everything and have like a brief oversight in the track structure. Gonna leave this open and yeah, maybe look at some automation. I don't know how much automation is on there. Let me see some on the bass, some to have these kind of build-ups towards the drop. I did like a high pass, low cut on it. Probably some volume automation, some automation towards, actually there's not that much. On the bass there's pop. Let me see, like the high cut, a little bit of automation there. For a track that's this simple, automation, it really makes things work if you do it right. So that's very important. If you work towards like a drop, or you're in the drop and working towards the point that it explodes or something like that, automation is extremely important. A low cut and a high pass on there. So yeah, just to bring it in slowly. And yeah, these kind of techno tracks, they're like bring it in slowly and fading it out and stuff like this. And it's not like on and off, because on the dance floor, if you're constantly being surprised by something that directly falls in, then yeah, you just stop dancing. So this is a very functional track, so it's like fluently and you can anticipate a lot of it, because if you can't anticipate anything, you just constantly don't know what's happening on the dance floor. And like I said, it's really formulated. It's a formula. This many measures, then this happens. That many measures, then this happens. It's not like some tracks that go on and go on and go on, and that's nice to put it in a mix and mix it in and mix it out and let the DJ do stuff with this. These kind of tracks, they're like DJ mixes it in in the beginning of the track plays and does its thing on the dance floor because it's this formulated, and then at the end of the track the DJ has a lot of room to mix it out. So yeah, it's an easy track, but like I said, there's nothing wrong with easy. There's an audience for easy, there's an audience, a much more narrower audience for more difficult tracks or more experimental tracks. But the thing I don't like is those people that are into more experimental stuff. Nothing against that, I'm a lot into that myself. Not with this track, not with this tutorial, but overall I'm more towards the experimental side. But it's kind of a niche audience. But sadly, because it's a niche audience, some people in there, they're like elitists and they're like shitting on everything that's simple. So that I don't like. Those people, they give the rest a bad reputation because they're like elitists, and yeah, there's no need to be like that in this scene. So just be happy that there's different audiences. This is commercial stuff. There's a place for it. Embrace it because it draws people in. Don't push people out. If you want more people to enjoy more experimental stuff, get into techno and discover underground. Not that there's so many underground artists anymore because it's all above the ground. I would say it's not all commercial, but it's more known than when it was in the 90s. So if you want people to come and enjoy the more difficult stuff, then don't push away the people that are interested at first in the more commercial stuff, because if you want to keep it niche, be my guest, but don't be an ass. So, claps, also some automation. I think on most of those tracks I put some automation, even if it's just volume automation. Just like I say, bring it in the volume, then sometimes have a drop, but when you have a drop, bring another element in, so it constant, you have a constant evolution, a build up, then you build up again. And actually this is what happens with this track. It always builds up in like small parts and bigger parts. So it's always building, 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 a break, building, 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 a longer part. And it's like people need to move on the dance floor. If you have like a very repetitive track going all the time and staying all the time like very busy or very minimal, that's not something that can stand on its own on the dance floor. This is more like a track you fade it in, let the track do its stuff, maybe add some effects on it, or bring in some other like small parts to have a play with it, and then the track just plays, and at the end you just mix it out. Very formulated, but it works. So embrace it, learn from it, and you can implement those things in stuff that's more experimental. Actually, when you're working a modular, all this kind of automation, you're doing it yourself because you're twisting knobs and you're doing those frequency adjustments, those filter cutoffs, and you're actually doing most of the automation by hand. I like to work with the modular and do it all in real time and record it, and then use some parts and post-process the stuff I recorded. A lot of people don't have that kind of equipment and are bound to their software. And then you just need to use a lot of automation to have kind of the same feeling. The percussion, not a lot going on there automation wise, some volume changes. So let me see, probably also this volume changes, but then I cut out the volume, then I go louder, then a lot of automation on this part. Then these wood blocks, didn't go over these, okay. A lot of delay on this, but it's very quiet in the mix, and I put an auto pan on it, so it's very much using the stereo image. Okay, so that was that. And the vocal, there's not that much automation going on. I just, actually it's like a self-made envelope on this sound, because it's like a small part of the voice. If I play it,
silence, silence,
it's like kind of a delay, a self-made delay.
Silence.
And sometimes I do that myself by copying tracks and putting them further down the track, just to have like a manual delay to control it like no other delay could be controlled. Also maybe adding some other effects on those delayed parts of that voice. And one thing I'm forgetting to mention, the overall thing I did with this track is because sometimes you put in a loop, like a hi-hat loop, and it doesn't feel like it's grooving with the track, or not to the extent that it's really grooving to the track. And therefore in Ableton and also all other DAWs, you have like these micro delays. You can actually, instead of just taking the block and moving it a tiny bit, you can just add some very small delays, like not like the effect delay, but like put it a little bit further in time, like 4 milliseconds, -15, -4, -37. That's just adjusting everything, that it really feels like it's in a nice flow. Sometimes when using a lot of plugins, some things get a little bit of latency, and to compensate you can move other things around, if that solves the problem and it makes it all sound good. Or like I did with like the tom that became like a kick drum, too much processing on that part, I just resampled it, and then again I could make use of more plugins on that resampled sound. So all in all, I would say this is about it. Maybe take a look at the master chain. This is the master chain. I will do like a small before and after, perhaps. This is with mastering.
silence,
This is without mastering, and then it's like almost all over the place.
silence,
And this makes it more punchy, more like, yeah, it takes everything and it keeps it under control. Don't look at these utilities just because actually you just can discard that. Let's see the console one, what I actually did. Not a lot, really not a lot. A little bit of drive, a low shelf, took away some of the bass. Also, what I tend to do is when I put some compression on it, most of the time I will go back and solve it in the mix before the compression is like finalized. And when it's finalized and I put something else at the rear of the chain that needs another EQ adjustment, I will put the EQ behind it or just behind the compression, and I don't mess with the first EQ anymore, because when you mess with it the compression will react otherwise, and you will just be always changing stuff, and yeah, that's not so interesting. This is the EQ, it's just the low cut, and most of the time it will be off, like here it's off.
silence,
So that's just for the breaks. And then I have this Brainworks. With this plugin, everything below 400 Hertz, so the really bassy tones, it will set them in mono. What's interesting is if you have a nice stereo image, you can widen it, and what I tend to do is in the stereo section, like tweak some of the high frequencies if needed, and it will feel like they're even, yeah, better presented in the stereo image. I really like, and I use it on almost every master chain. Then the Studer, the A800 tape deck. Yeah, it gives it yeah, I will maybe take it out and into the mix. Let me see. So the tonality of the track, it changes a little bit, it gets that, yeah, more analog feeling. It glues everything together, and yeah, it sounds better in my opinion. And then I have like slide compressor behind that, and then the limiter. I didn't do extremely a lot on this mastering chain, because if you do a nice balanced mix, it doesn't need that much. The things I put on there, yeah, they have their effect. The track is loud and it keeps everything very tight. So yeah, I would say if you want to hear the full track, go to the Bandcamp page. If you like the track, I also have like an instrumental version. If you don't like the vocals, you can download them there. And yeah, take a look at the sample stream, sample packs. I can highly recommend them. Thank you for watching this episode. I hope you learned some stuff, and yeah, would say give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Hit the bell button and subscribe if you want to be notified when upcoming episodes get published. And yeah, would say thank you for watching and see you next time.